So once you get set up in your heart opener of your choice, close your eyes, and then I want you to check in with your hips. Maybe bending our knees, noticing how that feels on our hips and our low back. And then find the option of adding a hip opener, either opening up the back of our hips by drawing our knees together and our feet wide, or open up the front of our hips by drawing our feet together and our knees wide. Choosing whichever version honors you. Take this opportunity to pause within our day. Focus on our bodies, our breath, how all of that affects the state of our mind. Or maybe noticing how our mind affects our breath and our body. Noticing how our breath slows down. And our body begins to soften. And how everything else just seems to fit into this position, into this place that we've chosen. If we haven't already bent our knees, bend them now. Let our knees point up to the ceiling, let our feet walk in, hip width distance apart, or out wherever they started. And with our feet resting on the mat, we're going to rock our knees side to side in a small fashion. Just letting our knees move slightly to one side and then the other, allowing the weight of our legs to massage the back of our hips. And from where we're at, let's slowly rise up. If you're on a low surface, roll to one side. If you're on a high surface, bring your elbows close into your body, lift your head, walk your elbows back, and then come up to seated. So remove all our props from behind us. And then we're going to come to a standing position at the front of our mat. As we find our standing position, let's shift our weight forward and back in our feet. Just kind of listening to how we hold our weight, how we feel, where we are in our body, how this particular movement affects our hips, our spine, maybe our ankles, just noticing different areas. And come to center. Let's push our hips over to the right and then the left. Just kind of allowing our awareness to come to the sides of our hips, the back of our hips, our low back. And coming to center, let's inhale, sweep our hands up. Exhale, hinge forward from our hips and fold. Inhale, lift halfway, find a flat back. Exhale, fold. Bend our knees, draw our knees forward. Lift our chest up, sweep our hands up to the ceiling. Hands come to heart center. Inhale, sweep up. Exhale, fold. Lifting our hips up, finding length to the back of our legs. Letting our head hang. Taking a moment to pause. Are we letting go of our head, our neck, our shoulders? On our next inhale, lift halfway, finding a flat back. Exhale, fold. Bend our knees, draw our knees forward. Lift our chest, rise all the way up. Exhale, bend our knees, lower all the way back down. Lifting our hips up at the end. Inhale, lift halfway. And exhale, fold. Bend our knees. Find the strength of our legs. Rise all the way up. And bend our knees, draw them forward, hinge from our hips, come all the way down, lifting our hips up at the end. And rise up halfway. Folding. Bend our knees, rise all the way up. And bend our knees, sink all the way back down. Rise up halfway. And fold. Step our right foot back. Lower our right knee down to the mat. Point our big toe towards the back of our mat. Lift our chest, sweep our hands up. This time, press your hips forward a little bit. Keep lengthening across our belly. Open up our heart up to the ceiling. Press our tailbone down underneath us as if we were trying to scoop our tailbone. And then slowly lift our hips. Take our hands down to the mat, straighten our front leg, and hold. Keeping our toes down. bending our front knee. Walk our hands forward, lift our back knee, lift our back foot, step forward, and fold. Inhale, lift halfway. Exhale, fold. Bend our knees, draw them forward, lift our chest, rise all the way up. And bend our knees, hinge from our hips, come all the way down. And lift our hips up. Step our left foot back. Lower our knee down to the mat. Release the top of our foot. Point our big toes back. Press our front foot into the mat, rise all the way up. Notice that you come up in a supported position. Then from here, tuck your tailbone, press your hips forward, lengthen across your belly, open your heart. If extending your arms is too much, bend your elbows. Breathe in. And come back to neutral. Neutral spine, neutral hips. And take our hands down to the floor, straighten our front leg, keeping our front toes down. Long, slow, even breath. Bending our front knee, walking our hands forward. Curl our back toes under, lift our back knee. Step forward and fold. Inhale, lift halfway. Exhale, fold. Bend our knees, lifting our chest, rise up. And hands come to heart center. Inhale, sweep up. Exhale, fold. Walk both feet back. Lower all the way down to our belly. Release the tops of our feet. Press our tailbone down gently, just creating a little bit of space on the low back. Lengthen across our belly, open up our heart. Squeeze our shoulder blades together. Then slide our hands out a little bit, coming on to fingertips. Feel the shoulder blades continue to squeeze together. Lower down. Let our nose or our forehead tap the mat. And on our next inhale, rise back up. Exhale, lower down. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, lower down. Keep those shoulder blades squeezing together. Continuing to breathe and flow through our spine. Flow one more time. Then let our hands come underneath our forehead. Softening through our shoulders, softening through our back, our hips, our legs. Letting everything go. On our next inhale, Let's lift our head, keeping our hands attached to our forehead. Exhale, elbows come to our side. Inhale, hands come back to our forehead. Exhale, lower down. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, elbows to our side. Inhale, hands back to our forehead. Exhale, lower down. Continuing to flow. Inhale, rise. Exhale, elbows to our side. Inhale, hands back to our forehead. Exhale, lower. One more time. Your breath. And relaxing down. On our next inhale, lift our head. Keep our hands attached to our forehead. Exhale, lift our right shoulder. Keep our left shoulder down. Peeking over to the right. Then come back to neutral and lower down. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, twist to the left. Inhale, back to center. Exhale, lower. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, twist to the right. Inhale, back to center. Exhale, lower. Inhale, lift. Exhale, twist to the left. Inhale, back to center. Exhale, lower. One more time, each side on your own. When we get back to center, relaxing, pausing. And lifting our feet up off the mat, drawing our heels towards our glutes. Let's rock our feet side to side. When we find our knees walk out, walk them back in. Coming back to center. Release our feet down to the mat. Slide our hands around to the side of our chest. Inhale, lift our chest up, moving into cobra, hugging our elbows in tight. Slowly lower down. Press up by hugging our belly in. Press back into child's pose. Taking a moment to notice not how this feels on our spine, but how it feels on our hips. Back of our hips, the base of our hips, around our sit bones. And come up to an all fours position by squeezing our legs together, hugging our belly in. Rise up. and then stack our joints. Finding a flat back, spreading our fingers wide, lengthen through our spine as much as we can. We're going to find sewing machine flow. So I want you to keep your arms rigid and straight. You're going to lower your chest down, squeezing your shoulder blades together as close as you can, as if you're trying to get them to touch. On our next exhale, lift our chest away from the floor, creating as much space between our shoulder blades as we can. Arms stay straight. Lower our chest down, squeeze our shoulder blades together, and lift our chest up, pulling our shoulder blades apart. Squeezing our shoulder blades together and pulling them apart. And continue to flow, squeezing them together and pulling them apart. Keeping the rest of our spine neutral. Notice that we're not rounding our upper mid back. It stays exactly the same neutral position. Just sliding our shoulder blades along our ribs. And come to a neutral spine. Let's extend our right leg out to the side, point our toes towards the front of our mat. And I want you to roll your foot so that the outside of your foot points up to the sky and the inside of your foot rests on the floor. Then you can slide your foot away from your body just till your hips are neutral so that both hips are the same height. You don't have your right hip any higher than your left. And some of you may not get there today, and that's okay. Just holding here, lengthening through our adductors, our inner thighs. On our next inhale, open up our chest, move into cow pose. Exhaling, rounding our back. Inhale, open our heart. Exhaling, rounding our back. Inhale, open up our heart and hold. Try to get rid of any sharp angles we're creating in our spine and instead allow this to be a gentle curving of our spine. From this cow pose, we're going to start to sink our hips back just to what feels good for us. Doesn't have to be very far. As soon as you start to flatten your low back, you lost the pose. So keep that place where you're going to keep the curve in your low back. Then come back up and press back. Keeping the curve of your low back. Rise back up and come back. And rise up. And one more time, sink our hips back. Rise up. I want you to move from your core and your hips. Hike your right hip up to the ceiling, then bend your knee and place your knee underneath you. We're going to do the same thing other side. So extending our left foot out to the side. Inside of your foot is touching the floor. Outside of your foot is pointing up to the ceiling. Taking a moment to soften through our inner thigh. Hips are pretty level. At least that's our goal, is to get our hips level. Doesn't mean it's going to happen today. And flow through a couple cat-cows. Inhaling, opening the front of our heart, lengthening across our belly. Exhaling, rounding our back. Inhale, Lift our tailbone up. Exhaling, tucking our tailbone. Inhale, open our heart and hold. On our next exhale, start to sink our hips back, keeping the curve of our low back. Rise back up. And then sink our hips back. Nice and slow. And come back up. Keeping the curve of our low back the whole time. Don't let it flatten. Draw our hips back. Back up. We got one more. Keeping the curve of our back. Keep lengthening across our belly. And rise up. From this position, moving from our core and our hip, hike our left hip up. Then put our left knee down. From here, let's find a couple cat-cows on our own. Come to a neutral spine. Curl our toes under. Lift our knees up off the floor and let them hover. Find a couple cat-cows. Keeping our knees hovering. One more. And then come to a neutral spine. Crawl forward, front of our mat, and fold. Bend our knees, legs all the way up. Hands come to heart center. From here, we're going to find a little bit of movement, more internal rotation from our hips. I want you to just find your feet hip-width distance apart. We're going to lift our right heel up off the floor. This allows us to center our weight over our left leg. Now I want you to stabilize your left leg. Keep a soft bend in your knee. So for those of you that can hyperextend, find that soft bend. From here, take your right leg, bring it out in front of you, push through your heel. Then place your right foot in front of your left without twisting your hips. So hips are staying forward. Stand up tall, but keep soft knees. Then slowly shift your weight into your back foot. Release your right foot. Send your left foot out. Rotate your left leg. And then put it down in front of you without turning or rotating your right hip. Your right knee should still be pointing forward instead of rotating out. Try to find your weight balance between your feet. Then shift your weight into your back foot, release your left foot underneath you. Right foot extends, rotate your right leg, put your right foot down, stand up tall, bending both knees a little bit. Shift your weight back into your left foot. Right foot comes back down. Left foot comes in front of you. Rotate your left leg. Keep your right leg strong and stable. Put your foot down. Weight balanced between both feet. Soft knees. As you hold here, I want you to notice the space around your tailbone. Notice the base of your hip. Then shift your weight into your back foot. Left foot comes down. You're going to do it one more time. Right leg kicks out. Put your foot down. Notice the space. Hips are still square to the front of your mat. Notice how it feels to the sides of your hips. Shift your weight into your back foot and left foot one more time. Take it forward, rotate, and put your foot down. And bring your left foot back in. Let's inhale, sweep our hands up. Exhale, fold. Walk both feet back. Plank pose. Take your right knee wide and to the outside of your wrist. We're setting up for pigeon pose. Hips stay square. Lower your left knee down, followed by your foot. Let your hips sink down. You can place a block or a towel underneath your right hip if you need that extra support. Lengthen across our belly. Open our heart. Lift the crown of our head up. Maybe come up onto fingertips. We're lengthening across the front of our left hip as well as the outer right hip. We're lengthening across our belly. We're opening up our heart. Maybe walk our hands back towards our hips, lifting and lengthening a little bit more, making sure that we're not dropping into our low back. We're offering support from the back of our hips. Slowly return our spine to neutral. Walk our hands forward, come down to forearms if we choose. Maybe place our hands stacked on top of each other, lowering our forehead down to our hands. Maybe rotating if that's what our body needs today, remembering that rotation comes from mid back up. Rotating, right hand comes forward, left hand comes underneath our right shoulder, left shoulder comes down. Maybe support our head with our right hand. Maybe taking our right hand behind our low back. Maybe to help support and remind ourselves that we stay stable here. And unwind or twist. Come back up onto hands. I want you to squeeze your legs together. Feel your hips rise up. Step your right knee back, line it up with your left, and then slide your left knee forward and wide. Remember that it's not important to bring our foot up. What's important is to find a place that honors our knee, our left knee especially. Make sure our hips are level. Take a moment to check in with our low back, our spine. Begin to lengthen across our belly, open our heart. Lift the crown of our head up towards the ceiling. Option to come up onto fingertips. Remember, we're not compressing our spine in any way. The goal is to lift and lengthen, listening to where we are in our back and in our hips. We have the option of walking our hands back. Remembering that this is a hip opener across the front of our right hip and a stretch through our piriformis on our left hip. This is the base of our left hip. This is the back side of our left and the front side of our right hip. This is a heart opener. This is an opportunity to check in, to breathe, to recognize how we treat our bodies. We have high expectations. Are we a pusher, a doer? Do we always choose the easy way out? Is it a combination of all of that? Returning our spine to neutral. Checking in that our hips are level, balanced. Option to come down to forearms. Option to kick our elbows out, stack our hands, and place our forehead on top of our hands. Option to rotate. Left hand comes forward. Right hand slides underneath. Lower our right shoulder down. Maybe support our head with props or our left hand. If we're using props, take our left hand, palm facing up, to our low back, checking in that we're staying stable here. Slowly unwind or twist. Come back up onto hands. We're going to roll to our left hip and then sweep our right foot forward. We're going to move into Shavasana. So finding any props that we want to use for Shavasana, we're going to find a hip opener, letting our knees come out wide and our feet come together. Finding a stretch across the front of our hips. You can choose whatever kind of props you want to use. So maybe you have blocks, one block under your head, one under your heart. Maybe you're using a towel. Maybe the towel is going the opposite direction that I have shown here. So whatever you're choosing, let's align our spine first. Make sure our head's supported, our spine is supported, let our shoulders relax down. Make sure our palms are turned up. And once you have the upper body set up and you feel comfortable, relaxed, and bring the soles of our feet together, let our knees come out wide. And then bound angle pose to the lower body. Closing eyes. Keeping our eyes closed, let's lift our knees up. Walk our feet wide. Let our knees relax over to the right, letting our left hip lift up a little bit, as long as our props allow this to be comfortable. Lifting our knees up, keeping our feet wide. Lower our knees over to the left. Again, as long as our props allow. Lifting our knees back up. Walk our feet in, hip width distance apart, and then extend our legs forward. Drawing our awareness back to our body. Let our breath begin to deepen. And bending our knees one at a time. If we have blocks underneath us, draw your elbows in close, press yourself up. If you're using a towel or a lower surface, like a mat, rolled up mat, we're going to roll off of our prop. Keeping our eyes closed, let's press ourselves up. We rise up tall through our spine. Take a moment to notice how we feel. We feel open across our chest. We feel stable through our spine. We feel comfortable in our hips. Are we a little more relaxed? We feel grounded. I know you may not have answered yes to all of those questions. Maybe you are a little more aware of how our practice affects our body, our mind, our breath, and how they all work together to create harmony within our body. Place our hands together in front of our heart, feeling in that harmony. Take it as a gift that we move off of our mat and use in our day-to-day life. Namaste.